Hey guys, Rob again. Just want to do one final update video on this buffer. Now, as a lot of you know, if you saw my last video, it seems like no matter what I do lately, somehow, some way, when I think I have the problem fixed with this buffer, something else winds up happening. Well, what had wound up happening this time around, for some reason, and I don't know what happened, but in the past, it used to be the right side was having a lot of wobble, and the left side would be fine. Well, for some reason, it wound up flipping. So, John over at the Next Project YouTube channel, I was telling him about some of my issues with this shaft. John has one of these off the shelf, box store, shafts that you purchase from either Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or what have you. And with his 1-inch diameter shaft, he was telling me that in order to get it straight, he basically had to put it in between two flat surfaces and had to basically jump up and down on it to try to straighten it out. Well, I originally had thought about doing that, but the problem is this is basically the smallest diameter shaft you really can use for buffing. This is 3/4. The reason I went with the 3/4 shaft was, I was trying to go as light of a weight shaft as possible to get the most RPM out of the motor. So I originally had thought about taking John's idea into consideration, but the more I got to think about it, it's like, well, if it doesn't take that much to have this shaft go out of alignment, me jumping up and down on this shaft would probably just wind up making it worse. So because what was happening was the wobble was getting so bad on the left side here that once again the set screws were coming out of the left bearing here. But then what also wound up happening was the set screws on the shaft pulley here started coming undone. I have this shaft pulley centered in between these two 2x4s, but the screws were coming undone, and 1 minute the pulley would be going to the left, and the next thing you know, the pulley would be going to the right. And it seemed like no matter how much I would try to tighten the set screws down, it would keep coming undone, and it was because of this shaft not being perfectly straight and bent out of alignment. So instead of taking John's advice, what I decided to do was I would run the buffer for a little bit, shut it off. Then I grabbed a mallet sitting over there on that pegboard. And when I would look at the shaft, it seemed like it was bent towards the ground. So what I would do, I would run the buffer, shut it off. I would take the mallet and I kept smacking it underneath the PVC pipe here. See if that helped at all. I would run the buffer. If that didn't help, I would shut it off. I would smack it underneath again, and I would keep on doing that repeatedly. Well, when I went to do it for like the 5th time, it wound up being a blessing from God, because I think we finally have, and I know I've said this before in previous videos, but now I think we have finally fixed the problem here. Honestly, I think getting a new set of pillow block bearings would probably help the problem even more. But if there's any wobble in this shaft, it's very hard to see, and it's very minimal. There might still be a tiny bit on the right side, but it's not affecting the performance of the buffer. The buffer's a lot more quiet. One thing that I also did was I cut some of this shelving unit off. That way I would have more room to buff on the ends. But it was still making a very loud noise, you know, the shelving unit bouncing around. So what I did, I took a couple of clamps and I clamped one on this end and clamped one on this end. And that seemed to help a lot as well. And yeah, even though this thing is back running at 1150 RPM, I like it because that's going to help, I feel, help buff out these clear coats even better, especially using these small diameter wheels. So I'm going to fire up the buffer one more time. Now, like I said, it's still got a little bit of noise to it, but if you look on each end, I think, you know, this is doing much better now. Like I said, the right side might have a tad bit more, still have a tad bit of wobble, but it's not affecting the performance of the buffer at all. I even went as far as to take that one test piece that had the Crystalac Bright Tone over the Createx Opaque Purple. I took some of the Eagle Abrasive Super Vasilix and did a little more sanding to it and tried to buff it out even more. And yeah, running at 1150 RPM with these small wheels, I think is very ideal. Now, if I did wind up going up to some bigger wheels, maybe I would go back to putting the 2.5-inch pulley back on the motor. But this seems to be running great, and for now, this is what I'm going to stick with. Even when I go to larger wheels, like either 12 or 14 inch, I think I'm still going to stick with this, because, man, it's just... So my plan going forward is to just keep up with the maintenance on this thing and don't touch the shaft unless I absolutely have to. If I have to move, with me having locking casters on the bottom of the frame here, if I have to move, you know, this pedestal buffer, instead of grabbing it by the shaft, I'll just grab it from the top here, and if I need to, like, say, move it down towards my garage door or in the middle of the garage, what have you, then I'll just grab it from the top here and then grab it from the side and roll it down. These locking caster wheels, they roll really, really good. They don't hang up or anything. And like I said, when I go to do my buffing, I can lock them in place. I've actually got them locked in place right now. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this thing is running phenomenal now. I am so happy right now. Because, man, I thought I was honestly, for a minute, I thought I was honestly going to have to tear this whole thing apart again. Now, there might be a possibility down the line that I may wind up switching to building a benchtop buffer. The problem with that is I got enough stuff on my workbench, as you see over there as it is, that I really don't want anything else getting in the way. But the problem with the pedestal buffer, regardless of where I put this thing, having only a one-car garage, this thing still takes up a decent amount of space. But we can deal with that for the time being. The only time it's really going to be an issue is when my wife decides that she wants to park our car in the garage. I've got so many things in this garage now that I need to get rid of, like part of that china cabinet over here there that I need to take that over to my mother-in-law's, but I'd have to borrow somebody's truck. But in terms of the buffer, yeah, I mean, this thing it's back on track. And like I said, going forward, I'm not touching that shaft unless I absolutely have to. I come out here once in a while, I let it run for a little bit, I tighten the set screws down a little bit on everything, and I just let it run a little bit, but it's like, man, this thing, it's running awesome now. I really can't wait down the line to get some better wheels. I'm honestly thinking about also, even though I have this Menzerna GW16 and this Menzerna G52 Super Finish, I'm honestly thinking down the line of maybe when I get some 14-inch wheels, I'm thinking I'm gonna maybe get a couple of coarser wheels, and getting the Menzerna P204 medium cut, because the more I get to think about it, when I do go to do these water-based finishes, I think a medium cut compound would be the better way to go. I mean, I can still use the GW16, the fine cut over there, but I think honestly, down the line, I am going to wind up getting that Menzerna P204 medium cut. Because man, I truly want these finishes to be like pristine when they're done. But yeah, this buffer's running so much better now. I'm so happy. It's funny when you look in the video, it almost looks like the wheels are going the opposite direction. I guess that's just the modern technology playing tricks on your eyes. But that's going to be it for this video. I thank y'all for sticking with me. Like I said, this is going to be the last video in terms of this buffer. And if you got any questions or comments, just leave them down below, and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. But have a blessed day, guys, and stay safe, and take care of yourself, and take care of others around you, and we love you, and we'll see you next time.